Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. In today's part two coverage of the ongoing civil war taking place inside of the former state of Ethiopia, we're still going to look at coverage and just who is watching the channel and why, and then we'll kind of get into some of the meat and potatoes of some ongoing facts on the ground that have come to the surface. But more specifically, I want to look at basically the three types of watchers that are looking at the channel. First, obviously, you have those who support the Tigray region and watch the channel. Then you have individuals who have no affiliation at all, and they just want information about what is going on in the conflict because it is not widely covered in the mainstream media. And then you have the Abiy and or the Ethiopian state side of the equation watching the channel. And what's really interesting is, I would say, most of those individuals who subscribe and watch to the channel really have issue with the reporting. And that kind of befuddles me a little bit. Again, first, if one does not want factual and unbiased information about what is occurring, and obviously you enjoy the information that is coming out of the Abiy Ahmed loyalists' media coverage, which is, I would say at this point, in excess of 90%, unfortunately, dishonest. And that makes it very, very difficult for individuals covering the conflict, as the Abiy loyalist media coverage is the official quote unquote Ethiopian state official narrative. And unfortunately, again, most of the time that is incredibly false rhetoric and false narratives coming out of that side. But again, it would seem that those watching my channel and the Abiy media side of the equation as well, and the Amhara regional media side, really believes what they're being fed, and that's fine. I mean, I understand that, but at the same time, I don't understand why they would then come to this channel, would watch it, and then make critical observations about something that is just completely false. So again, for instance, if we go back to the original start of the conflict, again, a lot of information was false, and then was proven false. And even the media reports, until Abiy Ahmed finally admitted that his forces were withdrawing from the Tigray region, none of that was being reported. And then once the Tigrayan Defense Forces, in fact, moved into the Amhara region and started conducting operations and started seizing Kobo, but more specifically, we really saw it. We really saw the false narrative start around Korum and Alamata and other places, again, such as near Kobo and Sakota and other areas in which the B media refused to report what was happening on the ground. And I don't believe at any point in time the B media reported that Kobo was lost, much less Mersa, Weldia, Gashina, and a whole host of areas. It was just simply never reported. And the only time it became factual information per se was when the same Abiy media started talking about the fact that they were then moving back into areas and retaking areas. But again, they never reported that those areas were in fact seized. So again, a tremendous amount of dishonest reporting. Now, I do know that where we sit right now, the situation has changed a bit from where we were just a few weeks ago. And in the case of war, in the case of conflict, that can be normal. That is indicative of warfare. You will see ebbs and flows. You will see momentum swings. And I've talked about this in the past, which is normal for this type of conflict. I'd also talked about before the fact that if we did not see a fairly significant and quick advance in the seizure of Debre Berhan, uh, after we saw the taking of Shia Robit, and specifically the move south of Dese and Kambalchan, if the Amhara regional militias, with the support of the remnants of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, were able to stabilize the lines just to the southwest of Debre Sina and Debre Burhan. If that was not done, then obviously we would see an advance by the Tigrayan Defense Forces. And we were able to see that. We did see the stabilization of certain lines by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, specifically near Debre Berhan, near Debre Sina. And what is not probably being reported enough right now in terms of that and why that happened, it's not for the competencies of a well-trained and deployed Ethiopian National Defense Forces and Amhara regional militias. The reason they were able to stabilize the lines and prevent further advancements by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, especially near Debre Berhan and northeast of Debre Berhan, was the deployment of these Turkish assets which came into play. You can't dispute that. And if that makes you unhappy that I'm reporting that, then please leave the channel and go watch Amhara media, watch Abiy media, and you'll probably hear things that'll make you happy if that's what you need. But if you're looking for factual information, stay tuned and I'll try to give that to you. But again, the information that we are continuing to get, and even other channels are reporting what the Abiy media is stating, and a lot of it again is propaganda, and you have to look at it in a complete context. You cannot look at it in total, because much of it again is a false narrative. Is there elements of truth sprinkled into that false narrative by Abiy media and Amhara media? There is. And you really have to dissect that and look at that, and that's what we're doing right now in terms of the ongoing operations that are taking place near Kambalcha and Dese. Again, the situation continues to be fluid. There is still intense fighting. I can say without a doubt, as has been reported about so-called safe passage. I've heard that a couple times. Please understand, there is no safe passage of Tigrayan Defense Forces in terms of those forces moving north, or whatever the redeployment strategy or the deployment strategy of the Tigrayan Defense Forces is. A safe passage would mean that you have Amhara regional militias, you have Ethiopian National Defense Forces in a unity of command authorizing a quote-unquote safe passage. So if you can admit and you can understand that there is not unity of command within the context of the Amhara regional militias and the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, and even some of the regional forces that are supporting the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and the Abiy regime, then you have to understand that simply cannot occur. Possibly locally, was there an agreement between two battalion or regimental commanders? Possibly. But to say that a widespread strategic authorization of safe passage was created for the Tigrayan Defense Forces to conduct a massive redeployment, and again, we can even confirm that there has been a massive redeployment of forces. Again, if you take the information from a normal person on the ground, let's say a person who works in a textile factory, who happens to see a unit of the Tigrayan Defense Forces maneuvering on a roadway that happens to be northwest, that does not mean it's redeploying. It's maneuvering. It's changing position. It's hard to say what that unit is doing. So again, you can't take firsthand accounts by individual citizens without a real military background and then be able to articulate what's happening on the ground from a military point of view. You can't do it. Again, we at MFAM have contacts within. Let me back up a little bit. we have the ability to ascertain information from both sides. And when I say both sides, meaning individuals that may or may not have a fairly significant military background. So again, that's all I'm going to say at this point. But again, it's very difficult to say right now, especially if you're taking into account what OB media is saying and Amhara regional media is saying in terms of what is happening on the ground near Kombolcha and Dese. Is it possible the TDF is redeploying out of Kombolcha and Dese? It is. It is possible. And again, when Dese and Kombolcha were taken by the Tigrayan Defense Forces, I was frankly quite surprised. I did not think it would be so quickly. And again, I prior to the seizure of Dese and Kombolcha, I had expressed concern about the TDF maintaining control over Dese and Kombolcha, and was frankly very, very surprised when they were actually able to seize these towns without much of a fight, and then taking them. I mean, it was an incredibly political cost for the Abiy regime to lose those two cities, but at the same time, it created a sense of urgency and a very critical issue on the ground, which got the Turkish forces to deploy additional assets in to the former state of Ethiopia. So again, was it a serious military defeat and political defeat for the Abiy regime? It was, but at the same time, it probably motivated Erdogan to send further Turkish assets into Addis Ababa, also known as Fenfene. But again, if you're watching coverage of the channel, again, we're trying to bring you the most factual coverage we can. Uh, Past performances is indicative of future results and future performance, especially in the terms of the information that's coming out of Abiy media. Again, it is inherently untruthful information. It is very much propagandized, and again, it's very difficult to ascertain what's actually going on by hearing that information. So if you want factual information, please tune into the channel. Again, we're watching very, very closely what is happening near Kombolcha, what is happening near Dese. We know that there's a continued action and fighting south of Dese, south of Kombolcha. We still are unaware of who is controlling those two states. We just don't know at this point. Is it possible that the ENDF is moving in? It is. But at the same time, it's just something we cannot fully confirm as of yet, because we could turn around in 2 days and find the Tigrayan Defense Forces back in control of Dese and Kombolcha. And again, I was hesitant about reporting that the TDF had in fact moved into Dese and Kombolcha so quickly because it was a fairly speedy operation, and I felt was probably moving a little too quickly in terms of obtaining objectives, but they were able to do it. We can also report there continues to be very heavy fighting near Gashina. And again, the Gashina equation has not been yet sorted out. The fighting continues, and the Tigrayan Defense Forces are very much active near Gashina as well. But again, we're going to continue the coverage and provide you more content, more factual content for your consumption in the hours and days ahead. Have a good day, everybody.